I'm Rita Russell, formerly Rita Marion Russell, which you may hear that name in the interview. And my husband, Jack Russell.
Same as the dog.
The same as the dog, okay. Like I said in our bio, that we probably would never have met if it weren't for the Paramount Theatre. I worked at the Paramount Theatre candy counter because my mom was assistant to the Mr. Jack Hines, who was the general manager. And at 14, when I was starting high school at Ursuline, I was allowed to work 2 hours every day after school and then on weekends. So I was doing that for 5 years, actually from all through high school. And then at 18, they were telling me that we were getting a new assistant coming from Massachusetts. And I was a young guy, and I thought, oh boy, this sounds interesting. So lo and behold, my dear little skinny husband appeared at 135 pounds then.
She ate candy and she was getting fat.
No, I was always watching what I ate. Anyway, he took a liking to me for some reason, and we took it from there under the very discerning eye of my mother, who was not really hit on the idea of me getting sweet on this guy, you know. So it was hard for us to flirt or hold hands. He would come behind the candy counter, and if nobody was around, we could sneak a kiss. Or dating was something that was difficult too, because if you worked at the theater, it didn't close till midnight. And so for me to be going out at midnight was against my mom and dad's wishes, you know. But if he did get a day off, one day a week, he lived at the YMCA while he was in Youngstown, and that we would make a date, and I think there was a club merry-go-round that Jack took me on a date, you know, after he got a car, which he didn't have that, you know, at first. But anyway, that was, so like I said, making a long story short, we wouldn't have met if we both hadn't worked at the Paramount. Jack was only when he came to be a manager, he was only there about a year and was drafted into the Korean War. So in 1950, he was gone from 50 to 52, and we got married in 51, and kind of talked me into this because I could save $90 a month being an Army wife while he was in the service. $90 a month was a lot of money back then. So we did that for 10 months, and then when he came back out of the service, he was interested in television because he was with the Signal Corps in the service, and he kept telling me he was in microwave relay stations, and he said, you know, someday you'll be cooking with this. And I said, what? You know, something that you're up on a tower and you relay messages through these microwave? And I said, that was in 1952, he told me that. And I don't know when microwaves came, but we can't live without them now. At the beginning, you needed to have a second job because we had a couple of children already. So my uncle at the time was a business agent for the Theatrical Stage Employees Union in Youngstown. So he put Jack back in the Paramount Theatre as stage hand. And I said, he would work the night shift, you know. Poor thing, I said, I think many times the only job you had to do was open and close the curtain, but you had to do it on time. And I think he'd hear the music sounding and he'd be asleep that, oh my God, I gotta pull that curtain. But that and running Spotlight and even doing projection work, he learned that. So when I was so fortunate to be born at a time when it wasn't, a wife shouldn't have to work, you know. No, poor husband had to work 3 jobs to make a living, but the wife had to stay home with the children. Lucky me, right? Very lucky. But Jack did. He moonlighted then probably a good 20-some years with stage work, whether it be Stambaugh Auditorium, the Warner Theater, the Palace Theater, Newport Theater, or even the Princess Theater, where he learned to run the spotlight on some of our burlesque ladies. Which he was...
The only time I smiled.
Anyway, it's been quite a journey. If my mom hadn't been employed, and Lord, she started out, I'm thinking when theaters were just vaudeville. because I remember her telling me at the park there, all the shows were reservations, and people came in their long dresses, and it was very formal. And so she started out doing that, and then when talking movies came in then and they switched over, she went to the, and I'm not sure even when she went to the Liberty, they may have still had dressing rooms and shows that actually were on stage. Because Jack tells me there were dressing rooms in the Paramount Theater, but it was down in the basement, kind of. He said it wasn't very attractive. Well, they used to have, as I had photos of a box office outside of the lobby. But when they remodeled the theater in, I don't know what years it was, in the 60s, I guess, they moved it inside. So there was a lobby where the new ticket office was, or ticket booth. And then there was doors where you went into where straight ahead was your candy counter, and to the right were steps that went up to the mezzanine, and also to the left to the mezzanine. And you went straight into the theater. One of my fondest memories, which I wrote in the bio, was my mom being there with ropes up to keep the people contained, because there was no room, and you had to have ropes. She acted like an army sergeant, I thought. With people would get rambunctious, and she would get irate, and they had to wait until the theater emptied out before they would open the ropes and let them go again. People lined up outside going down Hazel Street, and that was a regular occurrence. If you got a big show that was there, it would be weekends especially. I think I made a whopping $15 a week. And I know with that, I paid my tuition to Ursuline, which was $90 a year. So I remember working, and I might have made, I don't know, maybe I got $20-some at times, I don't know. Our candy was only 6 cents, I think, and 10 or something like that. Imagine, same size candy bar now, it's 50 and 75 cents. This envelope that had the Shea Theater Corporation and Paramount Theater on
They
it.
voted exclusively to the highest class in motion pictures.
Well, and I'm sure it was.
1918, yeah.
Yeah. This was open, and you looked down into the auditorium.
Yeah.
And I remember the ladies' restroom being here, but it was different. This must have been in the mezzanine, but I never knew it as the Liberty Theater, because I was born in 1930, and this was probably 1918. But my mom knew it well, and she worked there. This was my skinny little husband up in the projection booth. He did learn to run the projection machine.
Oh, it wasn't that.
And then you were here as a manager. That's how you looked when you came from Massachusetts, hon.
Well, thank you, dear.
Yeah. This was on the marquee of the Paramount Theater, looking across the street to the State Theater. This was a projection booth again, with one of the operators, Steve Gaffey was his name. This was my mom at her first desk, I think, on the mezzanine floor, where it was on the second floor of the Paramount, and then they moved her up to the third floor. She worked for Mr. Hines, I'm thinking, from 1938 probably to whenever they closed in 76. She worked there. That was when they had the box office on the outside of the Paramount Theater, and then they remodeled and put it on the inside. This was my mother with the ticket taper, who was Martha Clonis, who went to work for the Youngstown Vindicator. The same candy counter in 1965. So that must have been 10 years before they closed then, huh? That was Janie McKnight, whoever. She was one of the girls. Did you get this old envelope that had the Paramount?
Why didn't you show them my picture?
I did, honey.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had you. This will be quite interesting. I hope I never have to see it.
You're so complimentary.
No, but anyway.
I'm Charlie Staples, and I was involved with the theater in the early 50s, and I would say 50, started about 55 and on through, up in through the 60s and the early 70s. Back in the 50s, there was just black and white television, as you know. And so there wasn't a lot of people that even, or let me put it this way, there were a lot of people that didn't even have televisions. We were still listening to a lot of radio, and to be exposed to this huge, gigantic screen and these huge speakers and the elegance of the decor, it was really, really, really something. It was a, back in the 50s, it was really the thing to do was to go to the movies in the Paramount, of course. And there was like the first motion picture, black motion picture, Porgy and Bess. And that was the first time that I ever went to the movies. It was at the Paramount. And that was the first time I seen that huge, gorgeous, that screen. And but my parents allowed me to go because of that. So my older sister, she took me with her to see Porgy and Bess. Going down to the Paramount, that was a big deal. And once I became of age, my mom would allow me to go every Sunday. Every Sunday after church, it was movies. And so that was like a real big treat. It was a real part of the life of middle class and lower class people that didn't have a lot. It was really, and that was where I would fall in, we didn't have a lot. And so that was really a really big deal, an opportunity to go to something that was really fine, that was really nice. And so it's something I'll always remember. And so I have very fond memories of the Paramount Theater, and certainly I'm very thrilled to see that it at least going to have some renovation, and it appears to be a lot of renovation, and I think that that's going to be just so good for Youngstown. Youngstown, I think that it right now is a model for small and medium-sized Rust Belt cities. As far as having a business downtown, of course, my business, that's where it's always been. When we knocked down the old building across the street, we had to do something with another location, and we were strongly advised to go to Austintown, to go to Boardman. They said, do not, Charlie, Charlie, that's dead over there. Youngstown, downtown Youngstown is dead. You're crazy to spend that kind of money and put it downtown. And I was told that by several people, and I would give all of them the same answer, and that is, Charlie Staples had been here for 30 years on this corner. I said, if I moved to Austintown, it wouldn't be Charlie Staples no more. And so I never was going to have my business no place except right there where it was. I was just thankful to God that there was a place right across the street. I'm just thrilled when I see the way that Youngstown is growing. Every day it looks like that somebody else is coming down, opening up something right there on Federal Street, and they're doing very well. And so it is just so exciting to see the things that are happening in Youngstown. And I hope this year that they decorate again, because when Claire Manuso, when she was heading up that, it was almost like old times. I am awfully proud, and I am very excited that the Paramount project is on the way. We're just looking forward, and I think it's also going to attract even more really exciting things to downtown Youngstown. And so I'm just very pleased to be here, to be able to play a small part in it.
Donald J. Patek, and I was involved with the Paramount Theatre from 1956 through 59 under Jack Hines, who was one of the great influence of me going to the theater a lot. It was enjoyable working there because you met so many different types of people, and you would listen to their voices after the movies were over and how they enjoyed it. And it was, at that time, a great experience to go to the movies. Sometimes you saw people there 3 and 4 times watching the same movie. One lady really gave me a kiss one day. She said, "That's the best movie I ever saw." And to this day, I can't all I remember is about 2 nuns and a big party. And she just loved it. She watched it, she told me, 44 times over a 5-week period. The most movie I saw the best was about 12 times, and that was South Pacific. That was, and then Ben-Hur was 2 or 3 times. From there, Jack Hines says, well, the State Theater needed some help a couple times, and of course the more gorgeous theater, the Palace Theater with Bill Petridge, who used to teach at Youngstown University. And Bill says, oh yeah, you got the BS to be here. He says, you make these old ladies feel good. I said, well, they're coming to see the movies, they're not coming to be grumpy. Jack Hines is the one that got me really going with the theater. And he was a people person. If he saw you doing something wrong, he'd just take you aside and say, smile and just overlook whatever they say. And this was Jack Hines all the way. He was just a great guy. I mean, he was and when they closed that theater down, I think he cried because he was there for so long. And then they sent him to the Powers Theater, and he built that up really big. But it wasn't like his old Paramount Theater. When you get used to one thing, you get used to it. And Jack was, no matter when you saw him walking on the streets of that, he would always stop and say, hi, how are you, what's going on? I was born on Plum Street in Youngstown, Ohio in 1941. I went to St. Patrick's Grade School, both on Oak Hill and on Glenwood, and then I went to Carter Mooney. I was the first graduating class, the first 4-year graduating class. 1956 to 1960. I was a movie buff, and I used to go to the Paramount Theater a lot. I used to go to the State Theater a lot because those were right across the street from each other, and you could run around. And